Welcome back on Diamond. Today I want to propose you a video about
the White Dwarf issue 469 of October 2021. I want to remember you that this is an interesting White Dwarf, but I'm missing for now the September one. So when I receive the September, I'll make also the video about the White Dwarf of 468. So not worry, when it arrive, I'll make also that video. So now we can start to see about this White Dwarf. Remember you that it's mainly related about the Seraphon, because inside there is the town selection related about the Seraphon that goes to update the Battletome about the Seraphon themselves. So if you are interested about, remember that this White Dwarf has some updated of this Battletome. So remember that there is such important thing. I'll prepare a specific video about the updating, so that I explain all the rules about Matrix played related about the Seraphon, so that you can know about them and know what there is, because it's quite important. And I think that there will be released also facts related, so eventually wait also for that video. Anyway, now we can go to see about such White Dwarf. Here we can see the alternative cover of the White Dwarf, that it's for the ones that make the subscription to the White Dwarf itself, and this is amazing. I really love such image, it's quite amazing one. Sincerely, I like also this one, but this one it's more classic if you want, and it's a Saurus Guard. But this one, it's something amazing. I like this image really. And here we have the introduction about the White Dwarf itself, so it make you understand what it's inside, and it make you know that there is these things inside, because it's something that it's related about. If you want to make some photos and so on, you could take off this page and use it for the photos on the background, so it can be quite interesting eventually. Or you can use this as an idea, so that you can prepare your own ones for the photos that you had to plan about doing for your miniatures or so on. So I think that it can be quite interesting to know that it's a suggestion about how to make photos and videos about your own options for your models. So quite nice. Here we have the part about the contents inside the White Dwarf, and there are quite a lot of them. And here about the mainly reader, so the readers that give the mainly list and so on to the team of the White Dwarf. And here, as usual, I suggest you to see this part, because there are a lot of interesting ideas. Think about this part about how it's painted and modified the base. Also the bases here can be interesting eventually, or the scheme of color. So use this as referring. Think about this, that can be quite interesting, but think also about this. This is quite an amazing model that I really like. I do something like this too, but not so, I can say, really amplified. But it's a way to personalize and really make amazing jobs about such things. So I think that this narrator, for example, it's quite amazing, and I suggest you to think about, because it's a way to make you understand how you can make a lot of different options available, so that you can personalize your army in every way possible. I think that it's something that make you really quite interested to personalize your army itself. And here we have Phil Kelly that talk about the environment of Age of Sigmar. So for example, farms in Age of Sigmar, so the living in the world of Age of Sigmar. And I think that it can be quite interesting to understand better how it can be made, so that you can see other parts of the world, of the environment of Age of Sigmar, and see better how you can even personalize or make some buildings and so related. So I think that can be quite interesting, because there are short things, but can be quite inspirational about. And here we can go to see about a bit of Age of Sigmar. This is the new Lord Croak in the version. I love such model. I'm really thinking about having such model, but it's a bit expensive, so I'm thinking about it. But it's amazing. I love this model. And here we have a bit of an army, so a background about the army of Age of Sigmar about the Night. And here we can see how it has been personalized. I like these images that are a good referring, and we can see how you can paint in a lot of different ways this one. For example, this it's later about Ben Johnson, and we can see such image about this color of the white. Remember that the white in photos, it's not always good to make a photo, so if you think that it's not so good, think about that it's a photo. From live in the site, it's much better. Then we can flip and we can find also this, that it's another way to convert and create the models, so we can think about having different scheme of colors for the Night Hunt. And I really like such a thing. For example, this has been modified so that it has been used other models for the Night Hunts on here, so that you can have a different way to create. So it's a good way to see different options. For example, think about this that are conversions. This it's a giant that has been converted, so it's quite different. Also think about this, so you can have a lot of different options that are available and can make you understand how much you can improve and diversify your army itself. Also see here you have a lot of different other ways that you can have. Also this one has been another modified with the base and the models that are riding the black coach. So has been done a lot of works here, and I think that it's really quite an amazing one. And here a bit of background about Azir. So we know a bit about what happened on Azir, so about the reign of the Stormcast and Sigmar, and you can see a lot of interesting background that can make you understand better what happened and what it is, but also about the Seraphon themselves. I love such imaging as always. This I want to remember you that it's an amazing image to have always refer if you want to have some diorama about. And here about the Tom Celestial. So this is quite important one. I want to remember you that these are official rules. So here is, we can start with the background, and for the ones that are interested about the Seraphon, I suggest you to read, because it can be quite interesting to understand better what happens and a bit of what is going on. I love such image, it's really quite realistic, and you can really understand how the background it goes to evolve, because there are a lot of different things that can be quite interesting. And here the Battletome Seraphon update. So remember that this is official. So we have about new LNG's abilities, we have the core battalions that you can use or not, it's up to you, but it's quite important one. Here we have about the open play, the match play, we have the grand strategies and the battle tactics available specific for the Seraphon. Here we have about the Path to Glory, because I want to remind you that with the new edition has been changed the way that they work, so they are going to rewrite all the Path to Glory. And we can see that there is quite a lot, and I always love such images. And so about these rules, about the match play ones, I'll create a specific video about, so that I can analyze all the change and make you understand what has been added, because I think that there are not quite a lot, but they are quite important one for the ones that are going to play the Seraphon, because can change the way that you play the Seraphon themselves. So it's really quite important one. And here we have about a campaign related about the Seraphon, so we can play with them, and I think that for the ones that are going to play with this can be quite interesting. For the ones that are not interesting, it can be quite interesting about the images or some ideas how to create your own campaign, that I think that it can be quite good. And so it's something that anyway I'd like to read, at least superficially, but to have something related. And here we have about how to paint the Seraphon. So we have some schema color that you can appreciate. Eventually remember that you can choose how you want your celestial warlords to be. And remember that you have not only celestial, because there are also terrain ones now, because they have also the Seraphon on the realms or the other realms of the Age of Sigmar saga, so it can be quite interesting. But we can take a bit of interesting parts, for example, how to paint these fevers and so on, so it can be quite interesting that way. And then we have about the Tale of Four Warlords that continues, and now it's related about Age of Sigmar, so we can see how they developed their own armies. And this is something that I suggest always to go to see, because there are ways to understand, for example, scheme of colors, bases that can be interesting. So I think that it can be quite nice, because for example you can see maybe some modifications, some things that can be of your own pleasure, because it can be interesting in that way. And I think so that it can be really a good way to improve better your own options eventually. And sincerely, read about it. At least if you're not interested about gameplay and so on, go to see such images, because you have a lot of details that can be quite useful for you. And here an article about the how to paint of the heavy metal with Max Faley. In this case we can see how has been painted different types of chapter for the Space Marine, with some details and some description about how these details has been brought up, so it can be quite interesting. This is the thing that I made you see before, and we can see that we have for different options about the chapters that you can use. So here we have a lot of things. For example, this can be interesting for me because it's about the Britannians, even if I have my own scheme of colors. But think about painting the black. I have my videos about the painting the black armor, but it can be quite interesting for you, or painted white. So it can be quite interesting to understand, because maybe you want to obtain some of these details and so on, and you want to have better, I can say, better understanding of what happens when you can paint in some different way to obtain some of these results. And then we can move on the Warhammer 40k. This it's quite interesting because we can see the Thousand Sons against the Blood Angels, so we can see a really quite interesting image. And here we have a battle report that it's about the Necrons against the Sororitas, so it can be quite interesting. I like this scheme of color, for example, and also this can be quite interesting. And so you can go to see about the plane. So here it's something that you can use as a referring. Here we have the Sororitas. As usual, what I don't like about the Warhammer 40k battle reports of the White Dwarf, it's that they use the PowerPoints. Simply, I avoid them because I don't like to use the PowerPoint for Warhammer 40k. Anyway, I suggest you to read the battle report itself, because if you're interested to understand how it works, the game, it can be quite interesting, because in a way the rules applied are the official ones, so it can be quite interesting. And maybe you can see some details. For example, you can see some details about the scenic features and so on that you'd like to use, or you can see some details about the armies, for example these, that can be quite useful for you to personalize your own armies, because the close-up images and details can be quite useful for you to understand better. So I think that it can be really quite a good thing to read or to sightsee, because eventually you can simply take inspiration about some things, or to know some units that you don't play but you'd like to know better how they work and so on. And I think that they can be quite interesting in that way. And then we have something related about Kill Team. Sincerely, I don't play Kill Team because I don't like too much the game itself of Kill Team, but still I find it quite interesting to see, for example, for the images or simply of the background. Think about this. Here there is some background that can be quite interesting to read, to understand better something not related mainly about the Kill Team itself, but the background itself, because it can have a lot of information. Here we have also some rules related about the Thousand Sons, so it can be interesting that way if you go to play them. And here we have new rules about Kill Team. So for the ones that want to play with the Thousand Sons, here you have something that it's quite important to play with. so you have to read if you are interested. And there are a lot of things to read about the Thousand Sons. As you can see, there is literally a complete add-on about the Thousand Sons for Kill Team. So it's quite interesting for the ones that play it. So I think, okay, a bit too much songs, so, but they have the Thousand Sons, so thousands, so. Okay, and here a fiction related about the flashpoints Octarius. I want to remind you that it's continuing. In this case, we have the chapter of the Atlantean spirits against the orcs, so we can understand better what is happening in the Octarian system. And so I think that can be quite interesting to understand better. And here an article that I find it quite amazing, because here they explain you the armors of the Space Marines. So if you're interested about to know better the various armors of the Space Marines, this can be quite interesting. You can see the different armors and how they develop along the years. And sincerely, I like a lot this article because it's something that it's quite useful to read. And about this, if you're interested, in the future I'll bring you this. That it has the background and so on along the time about the Space Marines, and there is also a lot of article and so on related, and also about the armors themselves that you're seeing here, the chapter at the beginning and so on. So there is quite a lot here. If you're interested, in the future I bring you also this one, so that I can make you the unboxing and see how it's composed, because there are a lot of things quite interesting. So think about it eventually and write in the comments if you're interested about. And here about a fiction from the Black Library. So here it's a way to see what it's a fiction about Warhammer horror. So it's a way to understand how the Black Library is done, and it's something that I suggest always to read about, because it's something that can be quite useful. Because if you don't know about the Black Library, you have a way to understand a bit about it, because there are different authors, different styles in the Black Library. So you can see about the horror, about Age of Sigmar, about Warhammer Fantasy, we can see about Warhammer 40k and so on. But here at least you can know a bit about it and have, I can say, a little taste about what you can have buying something related about the Black Library. And sincerely, I suggest you, because there are a lot of things, and along the years I collected a bit of Black Library books, because soon I start to bring also some review about those books themselves. And here the Army on Parade. This is about, I can say, the challenge to create a sort of diorama with your armies. And there are a lot of interesting things, because I suggest always to see about this, because you can have the schema colors that can be interesting, about how to personalize maybe some things if you're interested about, or having some personalization, because maybe you're interested to create something peculiar and having little about it. And then we have about glory points for the Dark Chasm, that it's about the Underworld. As usually, I remember you that I don't play Underworld, but I like the miniatures of Underworld. So about them, I want to remember you that I have in the description the playlist about my units that I bought from the Underworld, so that you can see what it can be used for, or the unboxing of those units that I bought. And really, I can't judge about the suggestion, but I think that if you're interested about the Underworld, this can be a really good reading. And here about the Middle Earth. Again, I don't play the Middle Earth, but I found the miniatures quite interesting, because they can be used, for example, to modify and so on, to create something new. And anyway, they are quite amazing ones eventually for some of them. And I really like the miniatures. I don't like too much the Lord of the Rings itself, so don't worry, it's my opinion, because I don't like too much, simply. But the miniatures are amazing, and there are a lot of ideas that can be quite useful. And here about the inside the studio, that you can make you see the preview about what we see in the future White Dwarf, so it can be quite interesting in that way. And you can also see something quite interesting. For example, think about these dark walls that can be quite nice to see, and these are the new ones, quite amazing. And so here we can see also something related about the chapter specific for the White Dwarf. And here we can see that the next month there will be something related about the Imperial Feast, because it's quite interesting about. And the next month it's related mainly about the orcs, it seems. So we have to prepare ourselves to see something quite fast moving on about the orcs themselves. Anyway, I think that can be quite interesting. So what to think about such a dwarf? I think that it's really quite amazing. I want to remember you that this is mainly related for the ones that are going to play the kill team and the Seraphon, because the update of the Seraphon themselves, that it's really a must to have for the players of the Seraphon themselves. Anyway, there are a lot of things that are quite interesting. Ideas of how to paint, how to modify, and the background, because there is a lot of background that is related about kill team, that it's related about Warhammer 40k. Generally talking, it's related about Age of Sigmar, so it's something that it's a must for certain players, and it's a nice thing for the general users, because they can be quite interesting to improve your knowledge about certain words. So I think that in that way it's really quite nice. Anyway, from Dino Mode it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.